At 23, Alan felt a deep disdain for work and sustained himself with his parents' salary for as long as possible. Under pressure, Alan managed to get a job at a cafe, but he used to arrive late every day, accompanying this habit with a notorious lack of courtesy towards customers. The young man experienced unhappiness and detested this existence, longing for resources to acquire expensive clothes and frequent luxurious places. Although his pocket remained constantly empty, he resisted spending the salary he received, so whenever possible, someone else paid his bills and general extravagances. Alan led a monotonous life, going back and forth between his home and work. However, an unexpected customer at his cafe changed all that. He was used to serving ordinary workers, people who simply grabbed their drinks and hurriedly left for their destinations. However, this customer was unique. A luxury vehicle parked in front of the establishment, and the driver got out to open the back door, allowing his patron to pass through. From the car emerged a woman with white hair and distinctive features, indicative of her willingness to show her age. Her impeccable attire and elegant posture contrasted with Alan's youth. He went directly to the queue, waiting his turn. Alan, who normally served one customer after another without even lifting his eyes to their faces, by some twist of fate, looked ahead and encountered that sophisticated lady. Observing her attire and the security guards accompanying her, he quickly learned that she was an exceptional customer. At that moment, his attitude changed abruptly, giving way to an artificial and automatic smile that formed on his face, accompanied by words spoken with extreme kindness. "Good afternoon. How may I assist you on this beautiful afternoon, madam?" He requested an espresso for her and a tea for himself. Assimilating everything instantly and preparing the order on his own, Alan transformed himself, revealing a competence he had never before demonstrated in his work. As he handed over the hot beverages, the young man also discreetly cast a seductive glance at the lady, making her feel flattered. But he didn't stop there. "I can see that you are a very successful businesswoman. Could you give me an opportunity? I am willing to accept any position that allows me to develop my career." "I feel like I'm limiting myself here," Alan said, looking deeply into the woman's eyes. This caught the lady by surprise, as she had only ordered a simple coffee. However, she noticed his dedication and decided to give him a chance. Kindly, she took a business card from her purse and handed it to the young man before leaving. On the card was her name and professional contact number. Upon realizing that he had been given an opportunity, Alan felt a renewing excitement, something he hadn't experienced in years. The next morning, Alan gathered the courage to call the number he had received from Miss Paula's office. "How may I assist you?" answered a voice on the other end. The young man told his story, and the secretary confirmed that she was aware and expecting his call. A job interview was scheduled for the next day at 4 p.m., and without even knowing what the position would be, Alan accepted without question. However, he made an effort and arrived early, even before the office opened. He managed to catch Miss Paula's attention, the same woman from the cafe and owner of the office, who normally didn't conduct personal interviews. But the young man was so persistent that she made an exception. The truth was that Miss Paula was impressed with Alan, not by his appearance, but by his communication skills and firm determination to achieve goals. Moreover, he dressed elegantly and demonstrated gentlemanly behavior. Miss Paula had no doubts that she should hire him and assign him to the sales department of her office, responsible for personally approaching large companies to offer products. Despite his lack of previous experience, the older woman was an exemplary leader and ran one of the country's most important sports networks. Despite having no interest in sports or business when she started in the business about 13 years ago, after her husband's death, the founder of the place, and although she lacked experience, the company thrived, leading everyone to believe that the elderly woman had a natural talent for management. Alan was not aware of all the details of the story, but he deduced by observing the old photos on Miss Paula's wall next to a gentleman who appeared to be the same age as her. He also noticed the absence of a ring on her finger. Although the woman was well kept, he estimated that she would be over 70 years old. Thus, he decided to try to seduce an older woman and make her fall in love with him. He thought that, due to wrinkles and age, she wouldn't have many years of life left. With this plan in mind, he planned to marry her, wait a few years until her death, inherit her special inheritance and conglomerate of companies. The young man felt no remorse for his interests regarding a kind woman who reached out to help him. He didn't care about the manipulation and schemes he planned to use over the years because he envisioned a significant reward in the end. For him, the only goal was status and money. And indeed, the plan seemed to be working. Alan had never dedicated himself so much in his life. Despite his inexperience at work, he took on the role of a salesman and managed to close deals with 2 major clients for the company, surprising everyone, including Miss Paula, with his sweet and persuasive behavior. The young man managed to manipulate everyone around him and persuade them to do what he wanted. The contracts he had closed would bring a good benefit to Miss Paula as a reward. The elderly woman decided to invite him to dinner at one of the city's best restaurants as an incentive for him to continue his good performance. It was at this dinner that the young man gave his best. Alan seduced and complimented the lady throughout the evening until she finally succumbed to the charms of the handsome young man, responding to his flirts. The two talked at length during the meal. He lied about a false journey of overcoming, while she shared stories about founding her company alongside her late husband and their adventures around the world. A few weeks later, after going out a few times and getting to know each other more and more, the young man decided to take a risk. Choosing the right moment, he asked Miss Paula to be his girlfriend. The expression of surprise and amazement was reflected on Miss Paula's face, despite their frequent encounters. He had always been respectful and didn't even try to kiss her, so a proposal of dating was a surprising thing. She tried to say that it would be absurd for a boss to go out with an employee, but Alan, with his power of persuasion, managed to get a yes as the final answer. She was surprised that a guy like him would want to be with a woman of her age, but she was so happy that she didn't even reflect further on the matter, simply accepting the proposal and celebrating all night. After that, Alan already knew that his plan was progressing as planned, but the next step had to be carried out with extreme delicacy and care not to reveal his true interests. He dedicated himself to the relationship, taking the lady to places she didn't even know existed, showing unknown places in the city and tourist spots that he himself always wanted to visit but never had the resources to do so. With so much care and attention from the young man to the elderly woman, it was only a matter of time until Miss Paula fell deeply in love with Alan. It was impossible for her not to feel more alive when she was with him, experiencing new things, meeting amazing people, and rediscovering the true meaning of life. Whether she wanted it or not, her deceased husband had always devoted himself more to business than to family. Although he was always by her side, he was not the kindest husband and chose not to have children, undergoing a vasectomy when he was young to avoid complications in the future. He left Paula without heirs, and after his death, the woman became even more alone and reclusive, focusing her attention exclusively on business. Faced with this situation, she decided to do something unusual for herself, an extravagance that did not fit into her usual pattern. She rented the best suite in the city for a weekend and called Alan to reveal the occasion. The young man was surprised to arrive at the hotel by helicopter, as he had never flown before and didn't know what to expect. Miss Paula, who awaited him, called him in, and after a few minutes, made the most unusual decision of her life. On the hotel balcony, she asked Alan to marry her. The young man's surprise quickly turned into a yes, leaving Miss Paula extremely happy, with tears in her eyes. Alan didn't imagine that his plan would work so well that she would propose marriage herself. However, despite all the happiness, the lady noticed the rude way he treated the hotel employee who knocked on the door to welcome them. Although she thought it might have been just her impression and perhaps he hadn't been really rude or an alert in her perception, making her more attentive to Alan's next actions. However, what she really didn't see was the amount of money he was spending every week on frivolous items since they started going out together. Alan began wearing designer clothes and watches adorned with jewels, behaving like a true millionaire, as if adapting to a lavish lifestyle came naturally to him. This went unnoticed by the lady, as she didn't regularly check her bank balance or card statements, but her bank manager noticed unusual transactions and immediately called her to verify the situation and ensure everything was okay. Although wealthy for decades, Paula was born in a humble village in her country. Always a fighter, she worked various jobs before her late husband's business succeeded. In fact, she supported the household during her husband's attempts to get his business off the ground. As the company remained just a plan on paper for years, she continued working and dedicating part of her salary for him to invest in his dream, believing that with such perseverance he could make it work. And so it was. After years of dedication, the company began generating profits, and the woman stopped working as a maid, becoming the main shareholder. And after her husband's tragic death, she became the sole owner of the entire empire. However, her journey of struggle made the elderly woman not value her wealth, investing only in her own business and foregoing mansions, cars, and jewelry she could acquire, limiting herself to essential comfort and possessing only what was necessary. Extravagant acts like renting a luxurious hotel and a helicopter to pick up Alan were rare, if not unique. Despite this, Alan's marriage to Paula was simple, without a party or any kind of extravagant celebration, just a small dinner at her house. Therefore, the bank manager called only to confirm if everything was all right and if these high expenses were indeed hers, as he had never seen such a large amount withdrawn from the account as he was seeing now. At this moment, Senora Paula began to question and suspect her current husband's true intentions. Already suspicious of his long phone calls and prolonged absences, sometimes even days away from home, the elderly woman began to fear that he was only interested in her money. This uncertainty gnawed internally, making her live anxiously and fearful of being deceived. To try to stay calm and dispel her anxieties, Senora Paula decided to get in touch with a private detective through a friend. This detective followed the man for some time, weeks, documenting his daily activities with photographs. When the humble woman received the detective's final report, she could barely believe what she saw. Due to his remarkable competence, Alan had been transferred to another branch of the company a few months earlier, to oversee other managers and employees. However, the truth was that he hadn't been showing up for work for weeks. When he left the elderly woman's house daily claiming he was going to work, the man was meeting another woman and attending parties and restaurants practically every week. In summary, he was constantly cheating on Senora Paula. To make matters worse, he used his fortune and the company's corporate card to buy attractive and expensive gifts for his lover. The tears that fell from the elderly woman's face were insignificant compared to the expression of disappointment as she saw all those photos and bank transactions. All her trust was shattered, the result of her intention to start over in life, which turned out to be a deception. She felt more used and deceived than ever before in her life. How could he do this to me? She thought, to say he loved me in one moment, then go out to deceive me with a younger woman. She reflected, contemplating her own naivety. How she was blinded by the passion and illusion of a young and handsome man. Despite the sadness that engulfed her to continue with her life, she knew she couldn't let it go like this. She immediately began to devise a plan to get back at the opportunist and liar Alan. She promised she wouldn't let the situation stand. Her first action was to block all his personal credit cards that were in the young man's possession and also immediately sever his connection with the company, although she didn't inform him. When the man tried to pay for a dinner with his lover using the card for the first time after that, the payment was declined. Incredulity washed over him and he merely joked, saying it was an operator error and that it always happened due to problems with the machine, blaming the restaurant employee and handing over another card. After 3 attempts, with shame and tension escalating, making the atmosphere tense, he wagered, "I bet it's your incompetence, you know. If you worked for my company, you'd be fired today," Alan said to the humble and friendly employee, who just apologized and informed him that he would return soon. Upon returning, he brought the establishment manager who said if the man had cash to pay because it was clear his cards were having issues. The young man tried to call his wife, Senora Paula, but she didn't answer, leaving him alone in this situation. After the threat of calling the police and the risk of spending the night in jail, he handed over his documents and cell phone to the manager, promising to return the next day to settle the bill, to avoid further embarrassment in the crowded restaurant. The manager accepted the proposal. The young man was furious, not understanding what had happened, but in his mind his plan was still working perfectly, progressing exactly as he desired. So, he tried to move on and resolve the situation as best as possible. Upon arriving home, he questioned his wife about the reason for the incident and the unanswered calls. She denied knowing the reason, claiming it could be some issue with the bank, and stated she would call the next day to sort it out. Alan tried to disguise it, but couldn't hide his anger. It was at that moment that Senora Paula could see the real Alan, without the enchantment filter she had placed herself. She saw what he truly cared about and was determined not to let his lies and betrayals go unpunished. The next day, indeed, she went to the bank, but not to resolve the credit card issue. She amended the marriage contract and the disposition of her inheritance. Childless and with her family already deceased, there had always been speculation about the fate of this money and the woman's businesses, now kept secret between her, her lawyer, and the bank manager. Unfortunately, her vengeful plan was abruptly interrupted by a sudden death. Only a few closest employees knew, but Paula had been battling cancer for about 3 years, alternating between better and worse. She knew her time was running out and her end was near. The elderly woman departed to the other side sad, feeling betrayed by the last person she trusted. However, aware that she was about to bid farewell forever, she left a letter for her faithful driver, expressing her final goodbye and her last instructions to him. After his wife's death, while adopting the posture of a grieving widower, he wore an expensive black suit and sunglasses to hide his gaze. The lack of tears in his eyes ensured that no one noticed his true emotional state. The will was kept secret, read during his wake. As requested in Senora Paula's letter, the venue was filled with company employees and shareholders, all concerned about the company's future. The text began by thanking everyone present, expressing that she would now find true happiness by reuniting with her late husband in another plane, where they could remain together for eternity. This statement caused discomfort in Alan, as everyone stared at him intently. Regarding the company, it was determined that it would be divided equitably among all current shareholders. The will acknowledged the constant help the shareholders provided to the elderly woman and praised the good guidance and decisions made by the board, resulting in a stronger and more powerful company than ever. The trust placed in the board to continue this legacy was emphasized. As for the fortune, the revelation surprised everyone by informing that the amount in her bank account was much larger than previously thought. Although many considered her innocent and unaware of business matters, the truth was that over the years, she had become a formidable investor, earning astonishing profits from stakes and sales of other companies that helped create. However, all this money would not be allocated to individual beneficiaries, but to the creation of an NGO that would shelter street children. This organization would not only provide housing, food, and clothing until the age of 18, but also ensure access to education in luxury universities and the opportunity to work in one of the affiliated companies. The same expression of hatred and fury that Alan had shown the day before reappeared on his face as the reading progressed. He was outraged that he didn't inherit any part of the company or fortune. His anxiety heightened as it moved on to the destination of the properties and cars, which together were worth much more than he could spend in his lifetime. However, to his surprise, it was revealed that these assets would be sold, and the money raised would be donated to existing charities. Finally, when the will was read, Alan began an extensive thank you to the late Senora Paula, making it clear the importance of the man in his life, stating that, thanks to her, he had lived incredible and unique experiences, explored beautiful places, and had contact with things and people they never imagined existed. For that reason, expressing his gratitude to Senora Paula, he also reported the opinion of having provided happiness to the man. For this, she left one of the most important items he could claim. She gave him a key that, according to the will, would give access to a safe deposit box in the country's most prestigious bank. A smile appeared on Alan's face, as he would finally have a collection of jewels or property titles. In the last tribute to Paula, all present applauded and believed that Alan probably received the largest share of the inheritance. Days passed, and with the sale of properties and cars, Alan went to the bank to check the long-awaited inheritance. He was warmly greeted by the manager, who took him to the vault, located in the institution's safest plant. As a privacy measure, the employees left him alone in the room, exiting and returning when called. Ready to leave, intense anxiety made Alan open the steel safe as quickly as possible, hoping to find diamonds and jewels. However, what he found in the compartment almost made him recoil. In the safe deposit box, there was an espresso cup, the same one Alan had served Senora Paula on the day they met. The drink was cold and accompanied by a simple note that said, "Hope you enjoy the bitterness with fondness, your late wife." At that moment, the young man understood the message. She knew his plans, she had always known. The gesture of the coffee was a mockery directed at Alan, a way to respond to everything he had done, all his lies and betrayals that only resulted in frustration and a sugarless coffee. Alan couldn't believe it. He was back to square one, with no money and no job. Devastation overtook him, crying as he screamed, not knowing what else to do. Everyone was informed. His deception became known throughout the city, due to embarrassment. He never cheated and managed to achieve the social ascent he so desired. Even the cafe where he worked was unwilling to take him back. At the time of his death, Senora Paula felt happy to remember that she had already found her soulmate in her previous life, which was her late husband. She realized that Alan had been just an opportunist who, at the end of the day, didn't achieve his goals. This story reminds us that, in the end, actions have consequences and that true wealth lies in calmness, honesty, and genuine relationships we build throughout our lives. The relentless pursuit of status and money can lead to existential emptiness and ruin, while compassion and integrity are the true foundations of a meaningful life. If you enjoyed this story, leave your opinion in the comments and, of course, leave your like and subscribe. Activate the notification bell to not miss any videos. Warm regards and see you soon.